what a story, Solo. What an experience. What a life.
You think so?
I don't think so. I know so. Even I can see.
Same as everyone.
See in the comment section that people are pretty impressed by the journey. So, okay. Where we've left this off, you are killing it in this sales job, or you're learning a lot about sales, but your fiance, you've gotten engaged, and then your fiance decides she's coming back to Kenya, and that's what made you decide to come back home. Just first of all, explain that whole story.
The coming home? Well,
because you knew that was a one-way ticket.
Yes, I mean, it was pretty simple by that point, because I mean, I had proposed to my long-time girlfriend at the time, and you know, the place she was working, someone from HR screwed up with her visa renewal, and I think they would have overshot her 2-week grace period or something by some days, and she didn't want to be in that country for a second as an illegal. So she literally just packed up her bags and told them, thank you for the opportunity, I'm going back home.
Hold on. Let me understand this. It's not that she wouldn't have gotten the visa, but she would have gotten the visa just 2 weeks later.
It would have been past her current one that was expiring. And usually the way they arrange it, you apply before it expires, so that by the time this one's expiring, they have renewed and it's current. You stay current.
Yeah.
And they overshot. Someone in HR screwed up and didn't send her renewal application in time, because you know the employer sponsors the visa. Yeah, so
but it's not that the employer decided we're not sponsoring it.
No,
it was just they
loved her. Yeah, she well-performing employee. She had, you know, set some roots with some of the friends and colleagues. She still does freelance works with some of them today. I mean, yeah, she was set. I didn't understand why I figured she was just tired of being in the US and wanted to come home. But she capitalized on that opportunity to just come back home. So she bounced in August.
And for you, had coming back home been on the option, on the table?
Yes, I just didn't know how or what that would look like, because I was still an illegal immigrant. I knew if I was gonna go back, I would have to reapply for a visa. Having violated my student visa, I wasn't so certain that they would grant me another visa, and that indeed was true, because when you violate those visa terms, they penalize you. So I think there's certain stipulated periods of time that they don't allow you to
even apply.
Yeah. They reject your application and tell you have to wait X number of years before you can apply again.
Okay, so let's talk about you coming back home. So she comes back home?
Yeah, so she comes back home in August of 2009. And
you're like, that dream, man.
Yeah, I mean, we were still engaged and whatever. We're talking about what that would look like. Would she come back? She was open to coming back, but I could tell her heart was not set on coming back. And you know, she lands back home. I think within 4 days she got hired by another company. Fadi and the team at ARC.
Yeah, Moav was part of it.
Yeah,
Moav has been on CTA, by the way.
Moav is my brother from another mother.
Amazing photographer.
Yeah, so Moav.
So she gets opportunity to work at ARC.
Yeah, in fact, it's Moav who received her CV through my sisters, I think, because they were in a church Bible study group together. My sisters and Moav, and they shared Aika's CV, and they called her in for an interview. Loved her, had her pap.
Yep.
As it turned out, SCAD was well known to them.
So they were like anybody from SCAD.
Yes, they were all too happy to add this new person to the team. So I mean, she settled immediately. And her parents were here, her siblings were here, so why not? So after about 3 months, I was like, man, if I'm serious about closing the deal with this chick, I need to go back home, because she ain't coming back. And so I simply made the decision to come back home. So I bought my one-way ticket. I told my boss I was leaving to come back home, which they were happy about because they knew I hadn't been home for 10 years. Sold everything I couldn't pack into a suitcase. And I bounced. December 3rd, 2009, I landed back in Nairobi after 10 years.
Oh my God. Okay, so look, let's take this slowly for the diasporans to understand this. So, how did that feel? First and foremost, you're not coming back with papers. You're not coming. You're coming. It's a one way. You know, I can't reapply to leave, to go back. The Kenya that I left has suddenly changed. Like, just explain to me.
So I had no idea what Kenya was like. I mean, 10 years when I left, Moyo was president.
You were not an adult in this country.
I was. I was 19 when
you're
I
19,
left. Yeah. But, President Moyo was still in power. Kanu days. I mean, that's a very different Kenya from the one I found. It was bittersweet. I enjoyed despite the hardships, I enjoyed and was grateful for every moment I spent in the States. It's a beautiful country. It has its faults and problems, yes, but by and large, it's an amazing place to be, to learn, to build careers, to the hope it offers at the very least is compelling. You know what I mean? The promise of America is very compelling. And
it's based on hard work.
It is. I mean, I was fortunate to meet a few people during that time who were living the American dream.
Did you meet any Kenyans in Texas who?
In Texas, I can't say I did. Again, I didn't interact very much with Kenyans outside of the few church functions I went to. Interestingly, Texas, Houston at the time, I think had 4 Kikuyu churches. They would preach in Kikuyu, praise and worship in Kikuyu. I was baffled, man. I was like, what? There's that many Kenyans in one place.
And even Kikuyus, for you to even lock out other Kenyans.
So the Kikuyu thing didn't surprise me because Kikuyus are everywhere. I think Kikuyus are blessed with an adventurous streak of some sort in their hearts. They can go anywhere and settle and make something of their lives. I envy that in many respects. There's something special about that. So I was no longer surprised that there were Kikuyus mostly. What surprised me was to what extent they had organized themselves by tribe. I mean, having a full service in Kikuyu automatically prevents a Luya, a Kisii, a Digo, a Maasai in Houston from coming to the service. Because how do they don't even know what's being said.
Yep.
That's what shocked me, that they were okay with that. I can understand that happening back home, especially if you're in rural Kenya, but in the world's melting pot of a country, that was counterintuitive, I felt. Counter to what the promise of America holds. So I struggled to connect with Kenyans who grouped themselves by tribe.
I get it.
You know, on the other hand, we had 4 Kisii soccer teams just in Houston. We play every Sunday. So it was interesting to understand the striation of Kenyan communities, ethnicities across America. As somebody who's lived abroad, I understand the longing for your own people. Absolutely, yeah.
But my perception was never from a tribal perspective. I wanted Kenyans. In fact, when you fly out, even class doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter if a guy is from Shags or if a guy is from Runda. We're Kenyans. We were
united by that singular factor.
Exactly. Kenyans, and that's one of the things that I loved about meeting other Kenyans abroad. But I never at a point ever classed it from a tribe perspective, even a class?
Yes, definitely not by class. I met people in college who in Kenya I would never have crossed paths with, because they came from high society and I wasn't. And there was never any conceivable reason why we would have crossed paths, but for being in the States and meeting there. And I'm not saying this is true for all Kenyans. There's certain pockets of communities, Kenyan communities in the States, who have become so insular that it baffles the mind. Why go there and then become Kiamba? Why not be a bit more inclusive? And maybe they don't think about it in those terms. Maybe they just feel like connection with back home.
Of home.
They're conserving or preserving, the home culture and norms in the middle of. They have to go to work and work with foreigners according to the foreigners' rules and so on. I get that. For me, it was a shock, and not a positive one.
You have a mix of both. How do you maintain culture at the same time have inclusivity?
Yes,
where you're learning from other cultures, connecting with other people.
Inclusivity, learn from each other. It's a lot richer. That was my experience of Houston more than any other place I'd been. I interacted with more Kenyans in Houston than I had in any other state.
And of course, there were more Kenyans in Houston and Atlanta than there are in other states. Maybe Boston.
Probably. Atlanta has a massive Kenyan population. In fact, we used to jokingly call Atlanta Kiambu. We used to call Maryland Machakos. So I'd go to parties and everyone is Koroga in Kikamba. It's like Kamba's only invited sort of situation. It's an interesting thing. I do understand. I'm not knocking it in that sense. It just wasn't what I expected for a group of people who've left their home country to look for better opportunities outside, that you would then close out the rest of your communities that you've traveled to. That blew my head. Okay. So I struggled with connecting. Ironically, 90% of my friends were Kikuyus. Still are. Most of my friends, for some reason, are Kikuyus. I don't think that means anything other than the simple fact that Kikuyus are the majority. Largest tribe in Kenya.
You like biashara and they like biashara.
Yes, so we have common interests, and I learn a lot from them because I do believe in such thing as communal gifts or strengths. Certain communities are better at certain things than others, and that's fine. We learn from each other. We need to learn the best of each other and lift each other up, as opposed to segregating ourselves by tribe. I think genuinely that's become a big problem back home.
Yeah. Okay, so you step back home. Let's talk about the emotions. What's running through your mind
coming home?
So of course there's the joy of your seeing your parents.
Oh my God, I was so excited to see my folks again. I had a niece. She was 12 at the time, or 5. She was 5 at the time. I hadn't met her yet. She was born while I was away. This whole new human being that's a new member of the family I hadn't met. That was exciting. Kyla is her name. She's a special human being, very unique person. She's now 17, if you can picture that, man. 12 years have gone by just like that. It was bittersweet. I was happy to be home. But I remember sharing with Biko that as we flew in, I remember the pilot announcing that they were going to begin descending into Nairobi in a few minutes and advising everyone to, straighten their seats and put away stuff and whatnot. And I looked at the screen and in front of you, which shows you virtually where you are on the planet. And I remember looking outside as the screen was loading, and I could see water. It looked like an ocean. And I couldn't figure out where would there be an ocean? We can't be over Lake Victoria, because it doesn't make sense that we came down and then right and left. So what ocean is this? Because I couldn't see the end of it. And I looked at the screen, and we were just flying over Lake Turkana, coming down. And I thought to myself, there's no way we're about to land in Nairobi. Nairobi is far from Turkana. And sure enough, in 30 minutes, we were landing at JKIA. And I remember every noise that was made on that descent. It's like my senses were heightened out of the sheer excitement of arriving back home. The long lost
the prodigal son returns.
Returning.
Prodigal
I'd missed my sisters. I'd missed their coming into adulthood. I'd missed their campus days. They were now working professionals. One was married. I missed her wedding. She got married on my birthday. On top of that, it was a huge, giant mixed bag of emotions. I remember the air hostess hitting on me. She brazenly
hitting on you.
Yeah, she brazenly. So I asked her for a pen to fill in the immigration form. And as I gave it back to her, she asked me for my number. And I told her, I'm sorry, I don't have a Kenyan number yet. It's my first time home in 10 years. So she gave me her number. That was shocking. I hadn't experienced...
You're like so much with a conservative Kenyan.
I know. Conservative ladies had left were gone, man. These ladies were aggressive. In fact, it was one of the first things I told my sisters as soon as I landed. Like, can you believe this air hostess did this, that, and the other? So, I mean, it was amazing. But the one thing that stuck out to me was the blue skies and the sunshine. I had missed the African sun in ways I was clueless about. You know, those things you take for granted. There's a different light here. The sunshine here is not the same as it is up there. The sky is a different blue. The light is a different golden. And there was something familiar about it that just told me, welcome home. I just knew I was home. Yeah, and that was pressure gone. I didn't have to worry about being asked about my immigration status. I was where I belong.
You know, that's such a huge... I love what you've said there, and I want to just reiterate on it. That whole fact of identity, belong, like you don't feel out of place in this space.
I don't have to justify my presence.
Oh, that is crazy.
Yeah.
You don't have to justify your presence.
No. No one looks at me and wonders where I'm from. Do I have papers?
Why do you sound like the way you sound?
Yeah.
Oh, that's powerful.
Yeah, it's the little things, man.
And sometimes you don't even know that you have this feeling that you're carrying, this baggage that you're walking around with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I literally felt lighter. I mean, I remember thinking I need to go apply for a new deal. But I'd lost my ID. So I went to Nyayo Stadium Police Station to report or to get an abstract for replacement of ID. And no one asked me 20 questions. I simply showed copies of my birth certificate. They're like, okay, sawa, come back in 4 weeks. I was like, that's it? Kwani ulikuwa unatakaje? I was expecting, interrogation. Who are you? Where are you from? Like, none of that justification. I was Kenyan. I was home. I have the right to be here. This is my country. My country. You can't say that as an illegal immigrant.
Ooh.
Even as a legal one.
Yep. In fact, it's
not the same.
Even people who are Americans, and on this one I'll push on the Black Americans. I've seen Black Americans in Kenya. I was giving you an example. And it's not until you talk to somebody who doesn't feel like they belong and they begin telling you so much about how they feel like they belong in a place that is not even per se their home, though it is their home in terms of heritage. So that feeling of it just feels good to be in Africa, despite, because I mean Africa has its own challenges and madness, but I love the fact that you began this story by talking about just the emotional, spiritual way that it made you feel.
Yeah, it's definitely a spiritual feeling, awareness. It's hard to describe, man, but I'm sure everyone who's been away for long and comes back home knows exactly what that feels like. And another thing to be thankful for, that I could be back home. I hadn't told my parents I was coming.
What?
Yeah, only my sisters knew, and they were sworn to secrecy. So I showed up at home and my mom almost collapsed.
What? I was bringing tears to my eyes.
Yeah, I was concerned she might die of a stroke from the shock. Yeah, I think my dad suspected. So,
rooms were being cleaned.
Yeah, things were being cleaned. People were being collected at weird hours of the morning to go collect what. So I think he suspected it. He didn't act as surprised. Either that or he hid it very well. But it was, I can't describe the feeling.
And let's also mention you had changed. So for them seeing you, you left as a boy.
Yeah, I was a boy. I was now a man, 32 years old.
Had Aika, when Aika came back, had you told your parents were engaged? Had she gone and met your parents?
Yes, no, as soon as she landed, so actually before she came, I sent my parents. When I proposed and she said yes, I told my parents and I sent them to her parents to announce and to ask for their blessing. So by the time she was arriving, both families knew that it was impending. Yeah, so I had acted diligently just to avoid awkwardness. When I was back.
Okay, so you come back. How is it to see Aika? I mean, after you've explained about
you can imagine, how would that be for anyone? I mean, I hadn't seen her in 3 months. I was overjoyed.
Yeah, and you're like, did that make you feel like, okay, I've made the right decision?
I knew I'd made the right decision. Even if, and I was comfortable knowing that even if it wasn't the right decision, my reason was right. And I was okay with having to make adjustments after. I had peace about it. I was in perfect peace.
That is important.
Yeah. That peace, I try to use it as a guide all my life. Decisions I make, I try to pursue the peace. If I don't have peace, then I make every effort to cancel it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about rebuilding or restarting a whole life. I don't want to call it from scratch because I feel like the experience that you had got in States, maybe you didn't come back with capital or finance but I feel like you came back to Kenya having gained so much in terms of exposure, experience, understanding. So now you're literally coming to build from scratch, but not from scratch. You get what I'm trying to say? Just let's now talk about that journey.
It was interesting. I was one of pure faith.